Mr. Price is principally a value-oriented, cash-only fashion retailer. They retail apparel, homeware and sportswear. Mr. Price Sports sponsors the Rugby Sharks and its in-house Maxed brand. It has a market cap of 32 billion rand, a price-to-earnings ratio of 25 and a dividend yield of 2.5%. And
look, the Sharks, they also had a bad weekend, but at least the Chiefs didn't have
I've been told not to speak about the Sharks.
You know, but it's good, at least they got to get lots of air miles from all that flying backwards and forwards, even though they didn't bring home the trophy. But Mr. Price Sports, another great success story, really focusing on that kind of lower middle income brand, so not so much the replica kit thing, but more the idea that the masses need to get active and accordingly they're going to need something to wear.
Well, this is your typical retail story. You can't fault it on that front, and what holds true is the argument that you put forward a minute ago in terms of the foreign retailers, well, the foreign investors finding our retailers very attractive in comparison to other emerging market retailers.
Absolutely, and that actually is personified in Mr. Price, because like you say, it's mainly a cash retailer, so there's huge defense against any sort of consumer shortfall. I think one of the things the guys are a bit concerned about is the credit space, which would apply to Truers and Foschini. So Mr. Price is mainly cash. They're growing their stores extremely well. They really are, I'd say, the closest you can get to a bulletproof retailer. I don't think anybody can compete with them in terms of their pricing points.
A bulletproof retailer sounds like a very good investment.
Yeah, and really, we've mentioned this before, but their real strength is in their buying. So they send buyers to Europe. We're in the fortunate position in the Southern Hemisphere where you can basically be 6 months behind what they're doing in Europe and North America and still have everything that appears to be spot on. So they literally send buyers to Barcelona and to Paris and to New York, and they see what's going on with regard to the accessories, they see what's going on with regard to the sports kit. They go to their buyers in China and they say, here is a sample. Can you manufacture something for me like that? The guy in China says, okay, I can either sell you something which costs $30 or $13 or $3 or 30 cents. Literally, it's like that. And the quality of the fabric is what differentiates the product.
You should be buying for Mr. Price. It looks as though this would be your dream job.
It's an absolute no-brainer. So people think the stuff is great, it's timely, it's fresh, it's new, but it's cheap.
Aren't you impressed by his knowledge in this arena of the buying trends within a Mr. Price, for instance?
I'm very impressed. But I mean,
blown away.
It's very expected because I mean, Paul is quite fashionable. I mean, he's a fashionable
Absolutely,
man.
look at him. So let's get a close-up on Paul right now, the fashionable Mr. Paul Theron.
Nothing from Mr. Price, I don't think.
We can't wait to see you in your weekend kit. We're going to insist on it for tomorrow night's show. Right, so this one is a no-brainer. What about the fact that if foreigners pull out of emerging retailers, specifically South Africa, in a big risk-off trade, we're going to see our retailers coming down? Isn't that a risk inherent in this investment space?
I think that's a very significant risk. I think that's more likely to happen either when things start improving overseas or things get worse here, so that gap closes and guys can pull out and go into other spaces. I'm not sure if I see that happening for a while. Then again, I can't really tell what's going to happen globally with the whole world. But that is something to be cognizant of. That's why I say when you're buying in, you still have to be very aware of price, which is why, coming back to Foschini, I said in this space it looks like it offers relative value. Mr. Price, even though it's bulletproof, there is a price, pardon the pun, for everything. So Mr. Price at a 21 times forward, coming close to ShopRite, coming close to some of Tencent's offshore massive global internet companies. I personally can't buy in at these levels.
Hot or not on Mr. Price?
No, that's a fair point, because my old rule of thumb of 10 says that if they're trading at 140 Rand a share, then the market is anticipating 14 Rands worth of earnings at some point in the foreseeable future. And by foreseeable, I don't mean 15 years' time, I mean like 15 months' time. So it is getting elevated. But as a whole, I'm positive on the sector, on the space and these companies, so I'm happy still to give it the hot. Partly because I'm also positive on the big global macro trend
yes,
going higher.
Yes, in your life everything's rosy and will continue to be rosy. Daniel, hot or not on Mr. Price?
I'd have to say at these prices, not.